Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. I'm just going to do a quick tutorial how-to video on the Mavic 3 and the ND filters. I've had the Mavic 3 for 4 weeks now. I absolutely love it. The optical zoom camera in it has just been great for me. Has a 1/2-inch sensor. The main camera has a 4/3 sensor, but just my biggest struggle has been using ND filters, and the combination of the 1/2-inch sensor with the 4/3 sensor, and being that the ND filters have the same strength for both cameras, I've been struggling with getting the correct exposure and getting the correct ND filters when doing my video. And I shoot a lot of zoomed in. I use the optical camera quite a bit when filming and switching between them, and it's always been a struggle. I found I would always be underexposed when switching to the optical zoom camera. So I think I've found a way, and I've found a method that works for me, and I just wanted to share that method, how I do it, and yeah, see if anyone else is struggling with this. I couldn't find any videos that explain this portion of it, so I'm going to try to do my best explaining it and why I do it. So we're just going to, I'm going to set this down, and I'm going to record my screen so you can see the different settings, and I'm also going to record on the drone so you can see the full resolution and what the difference is. So what I've discovered is the Mavic 3 obviously has an adjustable aperture on the main camera, but does not have an adjustable aperture on the optical camera. So you have way more flexibility. I'll just kind of show you as an example. Let's switch to Pro mode, and as you can see here, we have an adjustable aperture. So I can change this, and I have from 11 all the way down to 2.8. So just as an example, the Air 2S or the Air 2, they don't have an adjustable aperture. They have a set aperture of 2.8, which is this. Now you can see it is way overexposed. Well, how do we change that? Obviously there's a couple different, we can basically change our shutter speed, and if I just tap auto, it's going to change it to 1 of 2500 shutter speed to make up for that set aperture of 2.8. Now we don't want that shutter speed. So shutter speed is more important, or to me, shutter speed is the most important setting for me. And now just to kind of, there's plenty of videos out there explaining shutter speed and why and what settings to use, but in basic theory, by default, if you have your camera set to auto, it'll do frame rate at, if you're recording at 4K 30 FPS, which here I can show you I'm recording at 4K 30 FPS, your camera will record at 1/30th of a shutter speed for the most part, if just set on auto. Now what that does is it can make a video, especially if you're low to the ground, or if you ever notice on the corner, on the edges of a video, it looks choppy, like it's going like this. That's the reason why. And the correct setting is to double your frame rate, double your shutter speed of what your frame rate is. So if you're at 1/30th, or sorry, if you're filming at 30 FPS, you will want to have your setting on your shutter speed be 1/60th. So you want to have it double. So if you're filming at 120 or 60 FPS, you're going to want to have your shutter speed of 1/120th. So that's the most important, or that's the first setting that I change into when I'm going in manual. The first thing is my shutter speed, and then my ISO I want as low as possible, which is 1 of 100. So as you can see, that kind of narrows it down, and we can't really, you know, if we had a fixed aperture, the only way to get the correct exposure is basically to add a filter. So depending on your day and how much sun you have, you'll want to use different ND filters. So let me show you how I determine what ND filter I need and how I do it. So now that we've discussed that, basically we need our, we have a lot of adjustability on the main camera, but we don't have that adjustability on the optical zoom camera. So we are going to switch to the optical zoom camera because that is the one that we don't have much adjustability. So we want to get an ND filter for the optical zoom camera. That's what's important. That's kind of what I was doing incorrectly before. So we want to focus on, you also want to kind of be thinking about when you're using your optical zoom camera, what are you going to be filming? For me, most of the time, I'm not going to be, I won't have any sky in my shots when using the optical zoom camera. So keep that in mind when you're looking on what ND filter to use. So in this case, I'm going to bring my camera down to the point where the only thing in the shot, I'm going to record, the only thing in the shot that I see is landscape. Okay, so so we're in the Pro. As you can see, we are filming at 4K 30 FPS. That's another thing, just a tip. Have the same resolution, same frame rate for both cameras. Don't be recording 4K, 30 FPS on your optical zoom camera and then at 5K and 60 frames per second on your main camera. You can. I prefer to have it the same. It's easier in post than to work with that. So I'm at 4K 30 FPS. That means I want my shutter speed at 1/60th, same as the main camera. And I also want my ISO to be the lowest that it can. So you see we're +1 at the bottom on our exposure. What that means, we're off by 1 stop. And the ND filters, an ND4 is equivalent of 1 stop. So if your exposure is at +2.0, then you're off by 2 stops, and that would mean you would want an ND8, so on and so forth. Now it goes from ND8 to ND16. So sometimes you have to pick and choose a little bit, and you do have to play with your ISO sometimes on that optical zoom camera to get the correct exposure. Not ideal. I try and stay away from adjusting my ISO, but I will adjust my ISO. I'll go from 200 to 400, about max that I will adjust that to. And most of the ND filters I've found, that will work. So we're off by 1 stop. So that means using an ND4 filter is the correct filter for this scenery and the lighting conditions that we're in. We're in an overcast sky, really no sun in sight. This was a full sunny day. I would need an ND16 filter. Just from previous experience, an ND16 is what I would need in order to have the correct exposure. So I'm going to change the filter, and you can see that my exposure is going to go down to that 0.0. Okay, actually it looked like it went down 1. That is odd. It could be that the lighting changed a little bit. Maybe my math was off on that as well. I thought that is correct. Someone in the comments can correct me on the stops. one stop equals an ND4. Maybe I was incorrect on that. Just correct me if that was wrong. But regardless, we're very close to the correct exposure. This you can work with in post. This isn't an issue. And so now when we switch back, stop recording, switch back to the other camera, you can see here we're underexposed just a little bit, and we can easily make up the difference on that just by adjusting our aperture to, looks like 0.8 or 8.0. So now we are good to go. We can switch between cameras, and we are exposed correctly. We're at the same frame rate, we're at the same resolution, and we're at the same shutter speed. So I'm going to just do a quick side-by-side comparison showing the difference in a 1/30th of a shutter speed versus a 1/60th. And I'm going to see if you can tell the difference when watching. Really watch the edges of the video. That's where it's going to be most apparent. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll wrap up the video. I'm just going to go okay, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to just sit right there, and I'm just going to turn around 360 degrees, and the first one I'm going to change it to the 1/30th and adjust my aperture to correct my exposure. Okay, so now we're at 1/30th. And we're just going to record and spin this around. I'm just going to go full speed. Okay. Now I'm going to, now I'm going to switch to the 1/60th, adjust my aperture to compensate, and record. And we're going to spin around again. And stop recording. Maybe, trying to think, maybe that was a bad way of showing it. I think you should be able to see the difference. We'll do a side-by-side comparison. I'll also, just to show it even better, I'm going to stop a frame. Basically just capture a single frame when we're going past trees for the 1/30th and for the 1/60th, and you can see easily there how the 1/60th has more motion blur, and that is what we want to achieve. We want to get that motion blur. That's what's pleasing to the eye, and if we turn our head like this, what we see is motion blur. So if we can simulate that in a video, it'll just feel better, and it'll be more of a natural look to it. So, and we have a Verizon tower that we can kind of do like a parallax video effect. That's one thing that I really enjoy about this camera, the 7X camera. You can do that parallax effect on items, and I can show you a couple examples. It just has a very cool effect to your videos that really isn't possible without having that optical zoom camera option. So let's do, I'm going to go as fast as I can to try and, okay, first we're going to do 1/30th. Now doing that, we're going to cause issues by overexposing, I see. There's not really a way to fix that. I'll try and fix that in post to get the exposure correct. I think I can do that. Sorry, I'm gonna record. change it to 1/60th. And stop recording. Okay, so I'll show this both videos side by side. I'm actually not sure. I mean, I'm interested as well on the difference on the 7X on the optical zoom camera, if there is a big difference from the 1/30th to the 1/60th when doing a parallax video. I know where it is really evident is when you're going side by side and following a car. I know it's really evident there, but this might not have been the best example to show. But that wraps up the video. Thanks for watching. Again, leave a comment if I was incorrect on my terminology or something. Don't be afraid to correct me. But thank you for watching, and if you don't mind, leave a like and subscribe if you like drone footage and scenic views. Thank you.